Hi, my name's Jill Donahue. On my continuing mission to help lift our industry to build purpose-driven, influential pharma people, I'm here at eyeforpharma Barcelona, chatting with Christi Shaw. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And we were just joking before about your title. Can you give your official long title?
Sure. I'm Senior Vice President of Eli Lilly and Company and President of the Biomedicines Business Unit.
Okay, great. Just to give you lots of words in your title.
Yes, right, exactly.
And you just got off the main stage here. Thank you very much for inspiring us. We're chatting about patient centricity, and you're introduced to as a pioneer in patient centricity. In other words, you've been chatting about patient centricity since before it was a movement, really. Can you take us back to where that came to, how you came to that, and why you've stuck with it so much?
Sure. For me, it hasn't been an intentional thing. It's more of just why I came to the industry and why I feel I'm here. So
Tell me about
I guess my father was in business and my mom was very philanthropic, and I was the first person to go to college in my family, so I had to think long and hard. My dad said, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" And I actually chose in high school with a chemistry teacher that I wanted to be in pharmaceuticals. And every time I reflect on that decision, I come back to that's what I want to do. In fact, when I left for a year, I actually didn't know if I'd come back.
Right.
But then when Lilly called me and said, would you think about joining us again? It was back to the Midwest, back to where my sisters are. And I had worked at Lilly my first 14 years of my career, and that's also really where I learned a lot of my patient centricity, now that I think about it. Because when we talk about the patient journey, I thought every pharmaceutical company did that. But things like the experiential simulation, that isn't common. And it's with, we do that with every disease state that we have. And, talking about the patient journey, what I'd like to do is bring it to another level and make it more holistic beyond just the medicine and therapies. But what else can we help patients with in terms of as they're on their journey and trying to make decisions regarding their therapies, their care, their access? What are all those touch points in which we could actually be a tremendous help to them?
One of the things that you alluded to there, and that you talked about from the stage, that you took a year off to be a caregiver for your sister. Maybe you can just share a little bit more about that, because I know you're trying to lead by example, that we are all caregivers and that we all need to prioritize that at some point in our lives. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Sure. So, I'll back up a little bit by saying, we lost my mom to breast cancer at age 51, and my older sister took care of her when she was in hospice in our home. And we lost our father at age 67 to a rare infection. And when it was my sister's turn to need care, it was just a no-brainer to me when I thought, where do I need to be right now? It needed to be with her. It was in another place. I needed to be dedicated. And so I took that year off. Now, the reason I came back is, one, my younger sister turned out to be a match to donate her stem cells, and I was not a match. So now my younger sister had taken time off, and she happens to be in the pharmaceutical industry as well.
Right.
Yeah. And Lilly had called me to come back, which, like I said, wasn't sure I was. But it kind of brought me back to my roots, if you will.
And leading some important change in our industry.
Yeah, that is one of the other things I thought of is it seemed like such a big deal that I stepped down as president of Novartis to care for my sister. And as I thought about what I'm going to do next in life, there's a lot of women that don't know what to do because in terms of I want to care for someone, and men too. I want to go spend more time with my family for a while, but I'm afraid I'll get derailed.
Right.
And this was an opportunity for me too to say, go do what you want to do, help your loved ones, because we all need to do that. There's a lot of people that need help, and that you can come back. It may not be in the exact same job you were in before, but there'll be a role for you. And
that you'll be better for it. How has that year off changed you now that you're back in the industry?
Well, I think a big piece of it is people said I was patient-centric before, but for me, it's pretty easy when we're having a decision on phase 3 development. I remember we had one second month I was in the job, and it was, should we take this data and try to get an indication? Should we not try to do it? Here's the risks, here's the benefits. And it was all a business discussion and a science discussion. And when you said, a long discussion, when I said, so what's best for the patient? Right. The decision was easy. It was done in 30 seconds. And I think that having that mission and drive of what is the most important thing we're doing. Maybe we'll lose money over it, but why do it if it's not helping the patient?
There are so many awesome people in the industry, and like you said from the stage, everyone who got into our industry did it because they wanted to make a difference, right? And then somewhere along the way, like you said, some of them have lost their way. So I love what you just said there about asking what is best for the patient right there in that meeting. So that's one awesome way of keeping the patient front and center. What else are you doing to help people keep the patient front of mind?
So we do a lot of things intentionally. So at our town halls, we always have a patient there. We're always starting and finishing. When we actually show our financial results, we don't actually show dollars. We show how many patients are suffering from this disease and how many have we helped, and why can't we help more? And when you find that you do it that way, all of a sudden, you're delivering a lot more than you ever expected you could. What did it say? If doing well by doing good.
I love that, Christi, because when your language changes, then other people's will too. So when you start talking about lives instead of scripts and dollars, then they're talking about lives and focusing on lives. That's awesome. Can we talk about another barrier that we have, and that is around people feeling that they can't talk about patient centricity and making money at the same time? What are your thoughts on that?
I think they were just telling ourselves, we're trying to fool ourselves. That's exactly what we're doing is, we don't need to be ashamed of it. Profits and patients go together. The more patients you help, and every dollar you spend, if you think about, is this money helping a patient? I find we spend less when we actually ask that. This is not helping a patient, we should spend less or don't spend it at all. So you look at higher numbers of patients, lower costs, and all of a sudden you have huge profits, which guess what? Those profits can go back into the funnel and help more patients by doing more research. So I see it as a continuous circle of helping patients through it.
And they asked this morning some provocative questions about, do you think we can be the trusted, credible partner, or can we not? Just like to know how you voted on that. What do you think?
I absolutely think that we can. You know, when I joined the pharmaceutical industry, I was so proud. Everybody asked me what I did for a living, and I wore it like a badge of honor. And then I got into the phase where when I would be on an airplane and someone would say, you know, what do you do for a living? At the time I was with Johnson & Johnson, I'd say J&J, the baby company. You know, I didn't want to get in the conversation because we were seen as, you know, evil. Yes. And that was very disheartening to me. But I think I want to be a leader that gets us through that. I think if we get through things like value-based outcomes, where we can actually prove once and for all that we're saving lives, yes, we're improving quality of lives, and we reduce healthcare costs. I think once we can get to that next phase of using all that data to prove it, we will start to make incredible progress. And we won't all the time be able to demonstrate that, but if we can actually say we didn't demonstrate it, so you don't pay for it, but how else can we help you? I think we can gain that back.
One of the things we talk about to create that trust and build back that credibility is if we could incentivize our people by them saying to the doctor, you know, I don't get paid until your patients do better. Yeah,
that would be
great?
Fantastic.
How far ahead do you think that is? How close are we to that?
You know, the big thing is the consolidation of the data. So as we look at the electronic medical records, as you look at what's happening in the US with the payers and the PBMs now consolidating, that gives me great hope because now they'll care about the whole cost, whereas before we only had a piece of the cost. And so as they have that and they have all of the data, they're asking us now for what kinds of things should we be thinking about and what kinds of things should we be measuring. So to say, you know, this expensive heart medication, is it worth it? Well, reduces death, reduces hospitalization. Yes, it is.
I love your patient centricity. I love your leadership. Do you think that it is trickling, your patient centricity is trickling throughout the organization? Do you think it's catching on?
You know what I find is when I get positive feedback, it's mostly about that people are re-energized and inspired and almost given permission to do what they've come here to do. Yeah. And I think it's freeing and empowering for people to look at it that way again. Absolutely. And so I don't think I'm like directing the teams to do it. I think I'm enabling them to do what they already wanted to do.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, Christi, as a woman, what are your top tips? You're a woman, a mother, a sister, you're running a huge organization. What are your top tips for other women in leadership in pharma? How do you do it?
So my top tips would probably be what maybe I've learned over the years, and maybe it has to do with losing my parents early and how grateful I am at an older age to have had my son. Kind of like I said with my sister, where do I need to be right now, I think is what I try to live my life by as well. So if my son has a concert like he did last week at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going because he will remember if I'm not there. Yeah, nobody will remember I missed 2 meetings that day. You know, they can either go on without me or reschedule. So that's one of the things is where do you need, and to actually have the confidence to actually do that. I've given that tip to so many women in the past, yet I've been disappointed that they don't take the advice. They feel like they have to be there, they have to show their face, they have to show up. And I actually think it gives you more power as a woman to say, I'm sorry, no, I have a commitment, I cannot make that meeting. You don't have to explain it away.
Right.
It's just you are where you need to be. And we all know there's a lot more going on with women being not only cares for their children, head of the household, making healthcare decisions, but they're now also caring for their parents. So it's a lot, and that's why, you know, each day is different, and just trying to decide what's the most important thing you could be doing.
Right now.
I think, you know, when I get to bigger decisions, it's at the end of my life, what do I wish I would have done?
Right.
And that's an easy guide then to, much easier to make a decision when you do that.
Christi, I am so grateful that you are in our industry. Thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with us. And I just want to wish you all the best and keep doing what you're doing. It is.
I will.
So much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.